All right, folks, here we go with the notes for chapter 13, talking about media management from the perspective of the manager, the leader, and the entrepreneur. A lot of what's going on in this chapter is talking about some basic concepts of management and leadership, and is really meant to be more of an introduction to a few theories and ideas for you to be able to kind of put together your own thoughts on what it is to be a manager or a leader, and perhaps to get you thinking about ways that you continue to research your own development if management is something you're looking for in your future. At its core, management is about working with and leading people. It's not just about being the boss. It's about creating an empowering work environment in such a way that the people that you are responsible for are able to come through and perform the tasks that they are asked to do, and to do so with a certain amount of success towards the mission and vision of the company. Speaking of which, you need to be able to provide that vision for the people and to be a leader in that regard. That is absolutely important and vital when it comes to management. In addition, managers need to be those that have an entrepreneurial mindset to keep their units and organizations looking for more opportunities and for growth. Someone that's always willing to experiment, to take a risk, to take the next step, try to advance things in a more complete way than where the current situation of things are. Good managers need to be versatile, able to work in a complex, changing environment, and skilled at juggling multiple tasks. And very rarely are you going to be in a rather linear environment where you can just deal with one particular thing at one particular time. And very rarely are you going to be in a situation where there's always going to be one thing that is more important than something else. There's going to be lots of things clamoring at the attention of the manager. Those things need to be dealt with, and sometimes one thing has to take a back seat to another, and at other times the other is the one that takes the back seat to the first thing. So you have to be able to have that ability to look at priorities and to juggle things and to have multiple things that are in process at the same time. One thing to keep in mind when you try to grow as a manager, when you're trying to think of your approach, your strategy, your philosophy, there's really no single model that will fit every situation. Just as there is no single model that will fit every personality and everyone that is taking on the role of manager, there are times that you may have to change up your management or leadership style in order to fit the situation or the work environment or the company that you are in. So in that aspect, not just in terms of the manager's personality, but also just in the environments in which he or she finds himself in, there's going to be some flexibility and some juggling that is needed. With that in mind, we're going to take a look at a few different models and ideas that some of the thought leadership has come up with when it comes to management. Peter Drucker, who is known for all sorts of sales and management types of thoughts and processes, has come up with 8 practices for an effective executive. First off, answering the question, what needs to be done? Effective managers determine what tasks are the most urgent, being able to prioritize and get the most important things off of the to-do list. Second, what is right for the enterprise? In other words, what is best for the organization? This should be asked when confronted with decision making and should consider the owners, stockholders, employees, and the public, taking into account all interested parties in how a company deals with various situations. Thirdly, develop an action plan. Action plans define results. They establish a system to check results against expectations. So the action plan should involve action steps, not just the things that you want to do, but also taking a look at how that is going to happen, what sort of time frame in which those things are going to happen, what sort of metrics you're going to use to check that those things have been achieved or that those things have been effective. Fourthly, take responsibility for decisions made as a manager. A decision has not been made unless people know who is accountable for carrying out that decision. In other words, where does the ball drop? Also, important, who will be affected by the decision, and who needs to be informed, even if they are not directly affected by the decision. So, responsibility includes clearly communicating all that is happening, all that is involved, and what the standards are. And if you're not communicating those things, there's the responsibility that you have to take in dropping the ball, so that basically what happened is that the decision hasn't really been made and therefore is not effective. Fifth, communicate, which goes back to what we just talked about. Effective executives share information and communicate action plans. You have to make sure that everybody knows what's going on, at least those that need to be in the know what's going on, and that there is open trains of thought in terms of that communication, that everyone's talking the same language, everyone is on the same page. Focus on opportunities, not on problems. Good executives view change as an opportunity rather than a threat. Change is where we see that progress can happen many times, so that some different result may come about, and hopefully it's a result that is for the better. Seventh, run productive meetings. Know the purpose of every meeting and make sure that the work sessions are indeed work sessions and not bull sessions. Don't meet just for the sake of meeting. Don't meet and talk about things but not take action on those things. The meetings should result in actual results. And then use language like we instead of I. Express collaboration and teamwork throughout your enterprise. Managers should listen first and speak last. The more that you involve your team, the more that you involve people that you're responsible for, the more that it does become a group effort. Everyone takes ownership in the cause, and everyone benefits from the results of said cause. Another approach to take a look at here comes from R.S. Kaplan. These are 7 categories in which managers should regularly assess their performance. Now, Kaplan suggests that this assessment should happen every 3 to 6 months or so. At the very least, it ought to be done on some sort of regular interval that makes sense for monitoring the progress of an organization. First category, vision and priorities. How often do you communicate your vision for your organization? Would your employees offer the same vision and priorities? And that has to deal with the manager, the leader, effectively selling the vision to those in the workplace. Secondly, managing your time. How does the way that you are spending your time match up with your priorities? So those that are responsible to you, how do they spend their time? Is it in line with their priorities? Making sure that the investment of time that you're spending on various tasks is going to be proportional in terms of the importance of that task towards meeting the overall goal of the organization. Something that's going to offer little impact but involves a lot of time investment may need to be relooked at when it comes to whether that's something that should be done or if it is something that should be done, if perhaps it should be done differently or needs to be given a different priority. Thirdly, feedback. Are you giving direct feedback regularly to your team? Are there members of your unit whom you trust to give you honest feedback on your own performance as a manager? How well do you take criticism? How well do you take different ideas? Those things are really important. If you can do those things in an objective sort of way and not pass judgment in such a way that it seems as though you're not open to criticism and to change. Fourthly, succession planning. Are you helping to develop who might replace you in your role? Are you providing coaching and delegation to those who work with you? We'll talk a little more about mentoring later on in the chapter, but it's this idea that effective leaders in many circles are seen as those leaders that can work themselves out of a job. And the way that they work themselves out of a job is to bring people alongside them that are able to do the thing that they're currently doing so that that person can leave that position and perhaps go and do something else. Evaluation and alignment. With all the changes in the media industries, managers must adapt. Is the design of your unit consistent with current industry standards? If not, what needs to be realigned? So we're talking about things here from a standards and practices standpoint. We're talking about them at times from a technology standpoint, which we have discussed some of that in previous chapters. What is happening in terms of your being relevant in the industry, how well you're doing compared to your competition, those sorts of things. Leading under pressure. How do you perform under stress? How does your behavior in pressure situations impact others in your unit? Are you able to keep from blowing your top? Are you able to continue to stay focused and make sure that decisions that you're making during those stressful times continue to be those that are in alignment with best practices and in alignment with the strategy for the vision of the company? Finally, staying true to yourself. Does your managerial and leadership style truly reflect who you are? And is it consistent with your own beliefs and values? Are you able to go to bed at night with a clear conscience? That's an important thing. Are you able to see that the person that you are is changing from who you were and or from who you want to be? Those things need to be forefront. And if the answer to that question is something you don't like, then perhaps something there needs to change. Speaking of which, let's move on to personal development. How do you as a manager kind of keep yourself relevant, keep yourself skillful and sharp and savvy in what's happening around and about you, not just in the company, but in the industry as a whole? Well, first off, read. Managers should spend part of their discretionary time reading. Yeah, trades and the news sources and things like that, but also reading for pleasure and general knowledge to kind of become rather knowledgeable, not just in your field, but in what's happening in the culture overall, especially when we're talking about a job in terms of communications, because we're dealing with people and the relevance of the things that are going on around and about us and things like that. I would add to this category, in addition to reading, not just books and magazines and articles and websites and things like that, but you may also want to consider various podcasts and blogs and things like that to be keeping up with regularly. Second, interacting with other professions and with other managers in those professions. This can be accomplished by joining business and civic organizations like Chamber of Commerce or Kiwanis Club or something like that. You can serve on community boards. You can participate in public events, making yourself available in the community in some way, shape, or form. Attending conferences and seminars. These things are devoted to learning about new trends or new business ideas, and they can be particularly useful because it adds more than just reading about something or listening to a podcast or watching a video or something like that. The in-person collaboration and even talking with people that are there in that particular conference and seminar, whether it's those that are presenting, those that are learning right alongside you, those things can be very enriching. Speaking of which, networking is very, very important. Meeting new contacts. It can lead to new clients. It can lead to other business opportunities. It can, if nothing else, just lead to friendships within the business world and or within your industry. Those are really, really important. Surfing the web. Part of your day, part of your week should be devoted to surfing the internet, reading your favorite blogs, keeping up with what's happening on Facebook and Twitter and podcasts and things like that. These are things that on a certain level might be mindless, but it also can be fact-finding, especially if you're learning things about your market that you're serving in, learning things about your demographics. That can be very, very well spent time when it comes to research and development and strategizing for your media operation. Engaging social media. Tied into surfing the web. This allows you the opportunity to share your thoughts, insights, and participate in discussions with other professionals. So you're learning things as you are going through social media, but it also gives you an opportunity to do some networking. It gives you the opportunity to present yourself with a little bit of thought leadership with those that follow you in these social circles. So those things can be very beneficial. And then finding a mentor. Before you became a manager, you probably had a mentor. As a manager, you should also have a mentor. You need someone who can be open and frank with you and give you honest feedback. It's that idea of always learning, always growing, always developing, and having someone alongside you that's a little wiser, a little stronger, maybe has a little different background than you, but is willing to get in your face and call you out when you're kind of doing garbage stuff, or maybe not focused in just the right way that you ought to be for your particular situation. Having that board to be able to bounce ideas off of, or to kind of set you down and just give you things the way that you need to hear them in order to help yourself to grow and help you to grow as a professional, which means the people that you lead will also benefit. Developing your employees for management and leadership roles. So this was kind of that idea, we just talked about you having a mentor. This is an opportunity for you to be a mentor to others. There's no greater legacy a manager can provide to his or her unit or organization than to help develop other managers and leaders. So you can kind of think of it this way. You ask yourself, who is mentoring you? But then also ask, who are you mentoring? Keep that cycle going. How do you identify future managers or leaders? More likely, it's going to be those that have management abilities. You're going to figure it out. It's going to be obvious based on your experiences and how well they work with others. And honestly, the thing you do when you kind of pick up on something, just go to that person and say, what do you want to be when you grow up? Where do you want to be in a year, 5 years, 10 years? What are your career goals? Have a conversation with those people. Find out about their objectives and their career goals. And if it is something that you can help to develop, offer to be a mentor to them. Start that relationship. As a mentor, you're taking on a new managerial role by helping to develop a future leader. In the role of the mentor, here's a couple things to keep in mind, some attributes. Mentors establish goals with the mentee. This should happen at the start of the relationship so both the mentor and mentee are on the same page and have a clear understanding of what to get out of the relationship. There should be no ambiguity when it comes to your purpose in walking alongside someone else. The person that you are walking alongside with should also be very clear as to what he or she is looking for. Shows a little bit of want to on their part. And when you know what it is that their goals are, what they're striving for, it gives you a better opportunity to help steer them in the right direction. Mentors teach. They teach their mentee about areas in which they may not yet have experience or understanding in. To talk about some of the real life applications of making decisions, or how things will play out when you're doing certain things within the industry. Those things can really help to someone that is learning by someone that has had firsthand experience explaining that experience. Mentors listen. Mentees will likely have many questions about management and how to be effective as a manager. Do your best to listen and not to dominate the conversation. The more that you listen, the more that you learn where the mentee is at and are better able to provide the guidance that he or she needs. Mentors assign tasks to the mentee. The mentee in training for management needs to be assigned tasks that can test their managerial skills and have real consequences. Don't be afraid to have someone that you are mentoring have a task at which they could fail miserably and fall flat on their face, because failure is a great teaching tool. Mentors coach and give feedback. Your mentee needs coaching and feedback during the relationship. Discuss what is going well and what areas can improve. Be positive, be encouraging, but be constructive and objective when giving feedback. Finally, advocate for the mentee. Support a mentee's candidacy and serve as a reference. If a mentee is going after a management job, speak on behalf of that person. Talk about their strengths. Talk about some of the successes that they have had as they've worked under you. Support that person in their efforts to get the positions and the career goals that they are looking for. One of your ongoing tasks in management is on the development of all of your employees to help them reach their potential. So at this point, we may not necessarily be talking about people that are looking to become managers or leaders themselves, but at the same time, we can't neglect those that are in the workforce and just happy to be in the workforce. We want to empower them as well to become the best that they can possibly be and for them to be able to reach their goals. So don't overlook those that are not aspiring managers. Make sure you're spending time with them as well. This is a good place for us to take a break, and we will finish up the chapter over on the next video.